Corydoras, Angelfish, Kribensis, Lattice, and many others. Over the years I bred a lot of different fish and created quite few videos about my process, and you really seem to enjoy those videos. So today I will show you my next steps. I will show you how do I grow them out from this tiny fry into developed juvenile fish, and what do I do to prevent them from dying and keeping the numbers high. Let's get started. But first, a little summary for you to understand the context. At the very first stage of fish life, I often keep them in containers like this one. I do this because all the water surrounding it is keeping the temperature inside this container very stable. Second, it's very easy to maintain. With this turkey baster, I'm able to very quickly clean up the bottom of it and keep the water quality really high. And lastly, because of the feeding. In this setup, all the fry is very close to each other. And because of that, feeding is very fast and easy. I can just put the food in one place and those tiny fish don't have to waste a lot of energy looking for food. So each fish will get its portion with no problems. But next, when the fry grows a bit and are more capable of swimming and searching for food, I move them to my 12-liter fry tank. In the description you will find the link when I describe the details about it, so you can check it out later if you wish. But now let's get to the point of the video. So after a few weeks in this tank, we are reaching the point when we have to do something more. This tank is working great for me, but it will always be only a temporary solution, because keeping the fry in the tank of this size will cripple their development. So in the next step, I'm moving them into the grow-out tank. And this is the tank I use for this purpose. It's 45 by 30 by 32 centimeters and holds roughly 43 liters of water. So it's almost 4 times the size of their first tank. So the build for this tank is quite simple, but there are still few things to prepare. I'm starting from preparation of those 2 wood pieces. I want to be sure that they will sink and be stable, so I'm gluing small pebbles into them. And those 2 pieces of wood will be a base for my Anubias plants. Anubias is perfect plant for this kind of tank. They are quite big, so will keep the little fish more relaxed in their shade. They will absorb excess nutrients from water column and act as natural filters. And because they are from Anubias family, they don't require any substrate, which is perfect because I want to keep this tank bare bottom. Besides, they look really nice. And I said this many times already, I really dislike completely empty tanks. Next, I'm installing a filter. This time, I'm using something with a bit more flow than a sponge filter. I do that because I want good circulation here, and the young fish should be big enough to handle it. And finally, I'm installing small and weak heater. Not to increase the temperature, but rather to stabilize it and avoid sudden drops in temperature. And that's it. Super simple, and yet very functional and quite easy to maintain. And also quite nice looking, don't you think? Okay, let's fill it up and work on the final details. To help with filtration and increase the number of places for beneficial bacteria, I'm also placing few Marimo balls in this tank. I noticed that a lot of fry likes to peck on those balls, so it's good for them. Plus, they also help a bit with filtration, and in general, I find them to be a good addition in my grow-out tanks. And of course, few floating plants to further help with filtration and provide additional hiding spots for fish. And this is how this tank looks like when it's ready. I really think that it looks nice for what it is. Okay, so now you know how I keep my fry. But what do I do with it? As an example, I will show you this batch of Kribensis fry. But just so you know, I do exactly the same with Angelfish, Corydoras, Apistogrammas, German blue rams, and many others. The only major difference is the timing. So when should I move them from this small 12-liter tank into this grow-out tank? And it unfortunately really depends on the species. More specifically on how fast do they grow and how big should they get. So for angelfish and big cichlids, I do it very fast, like 2 weeks. For Apistogrammas, German blue rams, I wait a little bit longer, something around 3 weeks. And with Corydoras, I found them to grow a little bit slower, so I keep them in the smaller tank for around 4 weeks. So coming back to the Kribensis, at the time of the movement, they were around 23 days old. So not really newborns, but you can see that they already got some size and color. So they started to swim much more, and this was for me the indicator that it's time to move them to something bigger. Once the fish are inside, I do one more thing. I'm adding few snails inside. They are a big help when it comes to keeping the tank clean. So they are eating uneaten food and eventual algae from the plants. They are not invasive species, so I'm not worried about snail invasion. So it's always good to have few just in case. Once they are in bigger tank, it's also much easier for me to feed them. Why? Because I can increase the frequency. Because of the volume of the water, I'm not worried that much that I will pollute it. So I'm able to sometimes feed them 3 or even 4 times a day. This will speed up the process of them growing out, and I can also increase the variety of the food. So at this stage, I'm able to introduce crushed flaked food. As always, I'm including a lot of baby brine shrimps because live foods are simply the best. And on top of that, I'm using frozen food. For me, frozen Cyclops was working very well. All of those foods combined are keeping the fish really healthy. But of course, just because I can feed so much doesn't mean that I don't have to clean the tank. So I'm doing a lot of water changes as frequently as I can. For me, it's super easy and fast, so sometimes I'm just doing this every day. Keeping the water very clean really benefits the health of the fish. Because this tank is bare bottom, it's also very easy to clean the bottom of it. I'm not worried that I will destroy anything. I don't have to look out for the substrate. And look here. Remember what I mentioned about the flow at the beginning? With the combination of bare bottom and quite high flow, all the debris is always accumulating in few places only. So what I can do is suck out this muck from the bottom, and that's it. All the rest of the tank stays super clean. So I don't have to change a lot of water, just maybe 10-15%, and it's still enough to clean everything I want. And those are 2 major points right now. Keep them very well fed. Use the best quality food possible and feed them frequently. Not huge amounts, but frequently. Change the type of food very frequently as well. So live foods, frozen, plus some flakes. You don't have to clean the tank after every feeding session, but try to do it at least, let's say, every 2 days. When you are cleaning uneaten food, you're gonna change the water at the same time, so it's not like extra work, and what is left will be eaten by snails. With that batch of Kribensis, I had 0 deaths so far. Of course, they are very easy fish to keep, I'm not gonna lie. But I also have very good record with Apistogrammas, which are much more demanding. And since I'm using that approach, my numbers are really good. If you have any more suggestions or maybe questions, please don't hesitate to post them in the comment section. If you have any success and you would like to brag about this, please do it as well, because it's very inspiring to hear from you guys. But for now, thank you very much for watching and see you in the next one.